Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another series of Leaders Connect podcast. This is Essie Daniel with Aspire Global Leadership, and I am so delighted to be here with you today. Where are you joining me from? I always look forward to reading your posts, your comments, your engagement in the chat section on where you're joining us from. And what time is it for you? Or what is the most interesting thing that you've done this week or even today? I look forward to connecting with you in the comment section. But let us get started. If we haven't met, my name is Essie Daniel, as I've mentioned, and I am a certified executive coach, a leadership trainer, and international speaker with the Maxwell Leadership Organization, and I'm so happy to meet you. It's a pleasure. I look forward to a time when we can meet in person or through writing to each other or even through a call. So the last few weeks, we've been going through qualities of a great leader. In the previous podcast or recording, we talked about intentionality. Life doesn't just happen. Things don't just happen accidentally. We've got to be intentional in choosing the things and the people and the activities that we want in our lives. If we do not set aside some time to intentionally choose what we want, then life happens to us. And when life happens to us, then we have ourselves to blame for not being intentional as far as growth is concerned. And so I want to welcome you to the last part of our our topic on intentionality. You see, in the previous chapter, or rather in the previous podcast, we spoke about how the law of intentionality that we are talking about today comes from a book written by my mentor, John Maxwell. And that book is none other but The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, written by John Maxwell, the #1 leadership guru in the world. And topic #1 is on the law of intentionality. And so we talked about the different misconceptions that we have about growth and how they hold us back from getting the desired results. We've already covered 5 of them. We've got to cover 3 more. And so here we go. Here we grow. We're going to start with the comparison gap. Comparison gap states that others are better than I am. We live in a world that is very competitive, in a culture where competition is everywhere. We go to school, we are judged by how well we perform. And the sad thing, unfortunately, is we tend to classify everybody together in one category, in one group. Yet, we are all different. Different in the sense that we come from different backgrounds. We develop and go through life and bloom different times in our lives. And life is made up of seasons. There are seasons when we are flourishing, and there are seasons when we are growing. My mentor, John Maxwell, wrote a book that I love. And the name of the book is Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. What that learning means is sometimes you fail. But instead of looking at it as failure, we harvest the good. And how do we harvest the good? By looking at the lessons that were derived from that learning experience when we did not get the desired results. And next time we attempt that same exercise, we do better, we perform better, because we not only learned from our wins, but we also learned from our failure, which is what we are calling the learning experience, or the learning part of sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. But a lot of times when we are not learning, or rather when we're not winning, we are on the learning curve. It means failure is taking place. And unless we learn to look at failure as a learning opportunity, it becomes us versus them. It could be that you are in the us versus them phase, whereby you're either losing and someone else is winning. And when we compare ourselves with those that are doing well, or those that are where we would want to be, then we feel less. We do not appreciate what's going on well in our lives. What are we thriving in? Because you cannot be failing in everything. When you're not doing well in one thing, you're excelling in something else. And that is where we bring in the comparison gap that John Maxwell talks about, that others are better than I am. Mary is doing better than Jane. John Doe is doing better than Jane Doe. And when that comparison comes in, we feel less. It robs us the opportunity to grow. It robs us the opportunity to be happy. And so if you keep comparing yourself to others, you will be taking away the precious moments of your life. Comparison is the thief of happiness, as said by Theodore Roosevelt. I want to remind us today that the truth that there will always be someone who is better than you. There will always be someone who is higher than you are. There will always be someone who is below you, or who is looking at you and wishing, I wish I can be where so-and-so is. And there you are, you'll always be thinking, I wish I can be where so-and-so is. So rejoice in the one thing. When you look at yourself in the mirror, rejoice in front. When you look at yourself in the mirror, rejoice in looking at who you see on that mirror, knowing that there is no one else like you, and there will never be. And so appreciate yourself. Appreciate the lessons that you're learning. Appreciate the difficult times that you're going through, because they are molding you to be a better person. They are preparing you. They are shaping you for the challenging times that you could face in future. And these are the defining moments when we are not doing well. So rejoice in the one in front of you, as you will learn the best from the better ones. So there's something that I would like to read here for us. I like how John puts it. And he says, I hope I can find that part. Let's see, the page flipped. Okay, comparison gap. I like what John says about the comparison gap. He says that he attended an exchange program with 3 other leaders in Orlando, Florida. And this is what he says. I went because at the time I realized that I needed to be exposed to bigger and better leaders inside of my own small circle. At first, when I arrived, I was intimidated. As we talked and shared ideas, it became very clear quickly that I was not in their league. Their organizations were 6 times the size of mine, and they had many more and much better ideas than I did. I felt like I was in over my head and trying to swim. Despite that, I was encouraged. Why? Because I discovered that great men were willing to share their ideas. And I was learning so much. You can learn only if others are ahead of you. And that is the part that I wanted us to learn from. That we learn more when we place ourselves in environments where others are ahead of us. It is okay to be in a group where you're the least, because they will pull you up. You will learn so much by being in a class where you are not the greatest as compared to being in a class where you're the best in that meeting or in that group. And so instead of comparing yourself and feeling less and feeling intimidated, I encourage you and I challenge us, myself included. Why don't we learn from those that are ahead of us? Let's place ourselves in environments where there are many people ahead of us doing way better than us. And by placing ourselves in such environments, we will be growing. And trust me, if you look back a few months from now or a few years from now, you will be glad you did. Why? Because you will have grown. You do not have to compare yourself with others, but you could actually use that opportunity to learn from them. You'll be surprised by how many of them are willing to share with you what they know. They don't consider you less, but they consider you an important part of that group. And they are willing to help you, pull you up so that you can grow and become as great as they are. And I like what John Maxwell says. He says, once you get to that level where now you're on the same level as they are, and maybe you could even be better, get better than they are, it is time for you to move on to the next class up, where you will be the least and you start the growth process all over again. We grow more in environments where we are the least than in environments where we are the greatest and celebrated the most. I'll let that sink. So get over the comparison gap and get out of your comfort zone. Growth does not happen in our comfort zones. All right, next we're going to talk about the inspiration gap. And the inspiration gap states that I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I don't feel like doing it. Oh my gosh, this is a good one. I love this because many times we just don't feel inspired or motivated enough to do whatever it is that we need to be doing. And you may have 1,000 reasons to give up on following your path towards growth. But only one reason is enough to make you go ahead anyway. And that is the inspiration you wanted. It can be anything. Literally, it can be anything. If you don't start now, guess what? The reason to keep going far will outweigh the reasons to start. I've had conversations with young stars and seasoned adults, trying not to call them old. I'm one of them, the old ones. Yeah. And a lot of times there's this idea of, oh, I wish I should have gone back to school and acquired my doctorate or my degree or master's degree in XYZ. The question I always ask is, what is holding you back? And guess the answer that I get all the time. I'm not ready to invest 4 years in college? What will I be eating? Who's going to be paying my bills? And the list goes on and on. Excuses one after the other. Or the next popular response I get is, oh, that's such a long time. And then I follow up with the question and I say, whether you go to college or not, whether you go to university or not, isn't time going to still pass? Time never stops. In fact, there's a saying, an African proverb that says, time waits for no man. Time is constantly moving. Which is better? For time to pass by you, or for time to pass with you in it? I don't even know if that makes sense, but let me try and rephrase it. Whether we choose to do whatever it is that we need to do, time will still pass anyway. So it's best if time carries on with us pursuing our dreams, right? So if you desire to make a difference in your lifestyle, don't wait until you're ready. Get started now. Be inspired to start now. Just do it. So if you want to look for reasons to keep growing, hang on long enough to see the benefits. Commit yourself to studying and stick with the plan of giving yourself enough time to prove. I'll give you an example. When I started recording on a weekly basis, let me sigh. It took me a lot of dedication and self-convincing that I can do it and that I will need to stay in the game for me to continue recording these YouTube videos. And I had every reason. I started by saying, well, I don't have makeup on. I cannot just put on makeup when I'm not doing anything or going anywhere to just come on live and do a video recording. Other times I say something like, oh, my hair is not fixed. Or I don't have clean clothes. I've worn that one before on a recording. Or other excuses like, I don't have the right content. Or I don't have the perfect voice. Or who's gonna bother listening to me? You know, I came up with all these excuses. But the day I looked back and I realized if I would have stayed consistent when I recorded my first video in 2018, when I looked back and I realized, wow, it is 2022. If I would have been consistent in 2018 and recorded one video every week or one video a month, I would be far, far away from where I am today. And that is the day that I decided that I was going to get started. I did not need to know how to edit a YouTube video. I just needed to start. I did not need to know whether I would have anyone listening to me or I would just be sharing and I'll come back and listen to myself. It didn't matter who will listen or who will not. I just needed to start. It didn't matter whether I had makeup or not. I just needed to start. It did not matter whether I had the right background or not. I just needed to start. It did not matter whether my videos would be 2 minutes long, 14 minutes long, or 30 minutes long. I just needed to start. And now that I'm looking back, I can tell you starting was the best thing that I did in 2022. Starting to record videos on a weekly basis. It was the best gift that I gave myself, and I will forever be grateful that I got to jump on that call with Miss Antoinette Griffin, who encouraged me to start. and my friend, fellow coach, Jerry Schwery, who constantly asked me questions. How far have you gone? Have you recorded the video for this week? And I can tell you for sure that since the beginning of this summer, maybe even before summer, there is not 1 week that I have not recorded. And if there is one that I missed, I made sure that it was the first thing I jumped on that week. And I can tell you it's not more than once, if at all it happened. I've been consistent, and now I sit in front of the camera and I look at myself, record, share, encourage myself and others. Not because I'm so courageous, but because I needed to inspire myself. And that, my friend, is the inspiration gap. Even though I don't feel like doing it, I still do it anyway. And that's where we get that slogan from Nike, just do it. We hear it almost every day, right? Just do it. I just can't get myself motivated to lose weight, start recording, exercising, you name it. And we hear an equal number of sighs from educators from every sector who can't get their patients motivated to do the right thing from their health classes. John Maxwell says it and puts it this way from his book. We have news for you. Motivation is not going to strike you like lightning. And motivation is not something that someone else, a nurse, a doctor, or a family member, or even a coach, can bestow or force on you. The whole idea of motivation is a trap. So forget motivation and just do it. When I learned the secret, I just jumped on it and I got started. There are days when I don't feel like doing it. I schedule the next day and I pick a time and I set an alarm and I make sure when that day comes, I am aware. I'm well aware that an hour from now or an hour from the time the alarm goes off, I need to be in front of my computer recording. So just get started. Now, let me read this last sentence here by John Maxwell, and then we can move on to the last gap. All right, so this is what John says. You may not feel inspired to aggressively pursue a growth plan if you haven't started yet. If that's the case, please trust me when I say that the reasons to keep growing far outweigh the reasons to start growing. I'll read that again. I say that the reasons to keep growing far outweighs the reason to start growing. So, dear friend, once again, I'll repeat these words. Get over the comparison gap. Get out of your comfort zone. Just do it. Get started and get started right away. Okay? Get started and get started right away. Commit to starting right away. Don't look for reasons. Just get started. Just get started. And start right away. Because if you don't start already, the reasons to keep going far will outweigh the reasons to start. So if you want to look for the reasons to keep growing, hang on long enough to see the benefits. Commit to yourself and stick with your plan of giving yourself enough time to prove. All right. And then finally, I love this gap. It's called the expectation gap. And this is what it says. I thought it would be easier. I thought it would be easier. And this is what John starts by saying, I don't know any successful person who thinks growth comes quickly and climbing to the top is easy. It just doesn't happen. People create their own luck. How? Here's a formula. John says that we need preparation, in brackets growth, plus attitude, plus opportunity, plus action, in brackets doing something about it. And that will equal to luck. So growth doesn't just come instantly. No, it doesn't. It would help if you had patience, kept doing the hard work, and did not let failure get in the way to your growth. It would help if you created luck. Yeah? But guess what? That's not how it works. See, the lower you set the standard, the higher you will perceive the result. So instead of expecting that it will be easier, know that for a fact, it will not be easier. It can only get difficult. But the results, the harvest, are sweet. So as per our mentor, John Maxwell, when your opportunity, attitude, preparation, and action are combined, you get lucky. And so, dear friend, remember, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Become intentional about your growth to fulfill your goals, and it will change your life for good. That, my friend, is the law of intentionality. So fear not. Fear not. Get started. Get started. Be intentional. Don't let life happen to you. Be intentional. Choose what you want in life and go for it. You see, the success of intentionality is choosing to grow. Even when you know you will fail, you choose to grow. Even when you fear what others will say, you still choose to grow. Even when there is fear that success will alienate you from your friends and your family, you still choose to grow. Even when you are scared of the unexpected and the unknown, you still choose to grow. And so I want to encourage you to feed your faith and starve your fear. Choose intentionality. Lead yourself well. It all begins with you as a leader. You owe it to yourself to lead yourself well. And with that, I want to put my pen down and say, thank you for joining me today. Live an intentional life. Make it happen. Make it happen. You owe it to yourself to choose the life you want and to pursue it fearlessly. And don't look for motivation from out there, but motivate yourself. Essie Daniel here. It was a pleasure to be here with you as always. Have an amazing week. Until next time. Bye-bye.